to Joshua and Ryan's top 3 consumer regrets. My first one is that private jet we bought. It is an arm and a leg.
I don't regret it at all. I'm happy without my arm and leg. Oh, man.
No, we have some, I mean, let's talk about regrets real quick in this sense that if I regretted something doesn't mean I still regret it today. As soon as I learn the lesson from the thing that I regret purchasing, regret bringing into my life,
yes,
the lesson helps me let go of the regret.
Or it helps you jilt the regret.
It does. It does. Helps me jilt the guilt.
Yes, jilt
and
the guilt.
my shame is tamed.
That's right. That's right.
All right. So here are 3 things that I purchased and then regretted. The first one was I built a house when I was 22. And
I just didn't know any better.
Yeah, and I wasn't really intentional with it. So it probably wasn't in the location where I would have built a house. It was just, I was sort of just going with the motions, going with the flow. This is what you are supposed to do. And when we start making decisions based on this is what I'm supposed to do, it tends to lead to regret because it leads to a lot of unintentional purchases, which lead to regret. So I built this house. It was this 3-bedroom, 2.5 car garage, 2 living rooms, full basement. It was too much space for me and my former spouse, and we felt compelled then to fill it with stuff as well, which led to other consumer regrets as we started buying all these things we didn't need, but we felt the house was incomplete, and if the house was incomplete, then we as human beings must be incomplete. Yeah. And so it was a kind of a cookie cutter house, suburban house. I wouldn't have ever purchased the house. That's a weird thing. Just building it, was like, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. Right. Oh, plus I'm getting a good deal on it. I'd be stupid not to. The interest rates are low. The down payment is $0 right now. That was 2003 or whatever it was. Yeah. And so I certainly regretted that. I would have done a lot of things differently had I been intentional. So intentional purchases would have led me to making radically different decisions with building or purchasing a house. It's not that building a house or purchasing a house was wrong. I would have made different decisions along the way. Yeah. I got 2 more for you here, Ryan. I bought a Land Rover Discovery in 2004 and then very quickly changed. So we managed a bunch of retail stores. I changed stores and I had to start driving. It was like 100 miles a day. Yeah. And I'm driving this giant gas guzzler. Right. And I'm spending like 2 or 3 times the money that I was on gas within a month of buying the thing. Right. And I was like, oh, I wasn't intentional with this purchase. And so I didn't think about the thing we were talking about earlier, the things have to be paid for twice. You buy the car, that's the price up front. But the gas is the second price, and the oil changes and the maintenance, and a Land Rover has all the maintenance charges, right?
Isn't there a company in LA that literally their whole business is predicated on you bring your brand new Land Rover to them and they just automatically fix everything they know that it already has a problem with?
There is that joke that they're known for leaking on the lot.
Right, yeah.
And I don't know if they still do, but they did back then. And so there was a ton of maintenance. Eventually, I sold it relatively quickly at a huge loss, which led to more regret. But there were lessons there. I learned that lesson. I've let go of the regret. I don't still regret it at this point. In fact, I was talking to Podcast Sean about this morning, and he seemed to misunderstand what we were trying to accomplish here, because I asked him what the lessons from the regrets. He's like, well, I don't have any regrets. And I'm like, yeah, but tell me about the lessons you've learned, because as soon as you've learned the lesson, you start to, that regret just dissipates on its own. And the regret in that sense becomes beneficial. It becomes corrosive when we don't learn the lesson. Right. And so we hold on to the regret and it eats at us and it provides more anxiety and stress in our lives. Here's one more regret. It's not a specific one, but I can give you some specifics around it. Going into any debt except mortgage debt. And so I think about the 14 credit cards I had back in the day. So I was one of those 1 in 10 Americans who have 10 or more active credit cards. Yeah. I had 14. I had a Banana Republic. I had a Macy's card. I had Diners Club. I had Sears. I had an Elder Beerman's Club, which is a department store in Dayton, which here's the irony. I was banned from that store. If you read Love People Use Things, I was actually arrested in that store.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not going to go through all the details of that right now, but I still had a credit card so I could shop there, but I'd have to sneak in, I guess.
Right.
Now, I signed up for those credit cards. Why? Because you get 10% off today on that $70 shirt. And so I saved $7 today for $700, $7,000 worth of regret in the future. I did that with Banana Republic. I did it with Macy's. I did it with American Express and MasterCard and Visa, right? And, oh, man, I just remember how overwhelmed I was and how this is a true story I've never told before. So I have all this credit card debt. $100,000 worth of credit card debt. I've got them driving around that Land Rover. I'm driving up, I'm driving 275 to I-71 in Ohio. And I'm driving up I-71 on my way toward Columbus. There's the tallest bridge in Ohio. And there was a day where I was planning on driving the car off the bridge because this was the only way out, it felt like. I was so stifled by debt that I felt like ending it all.
Easiest way out.
Was not just the easiest way. You're right. But it felt to me at the time, it was wrong, but it felt to me at the time like it was the only way out.
Yeah.
That's what debt does to us. That's how corrosive debt is. I got 4 more bonus non-consumer regrets, but I'd love to hear from yours first, Ryan.
Sure, I can get into those. I'll tell you what, though, that bridge you're talking about, they actually had to put walls up because several people did what you did.
A friend of ours,
you were thinking about doing,
jumped off of it.
Yeah. It's, man, what a shame. And it was because of debt.
Yes,
it was. Yeah, I mean that's what it came down to.
Yeah,
man. What a pernicious thing. So we're talking about consumer regrets. I talked about one in the minimal episode about getting a new car every 2 years, and essentially like the last brand new car I bought. That was the last brand new car I bought.
It was a Bugatti.
It was like a Toyota Solara or something, and I had a truck that was it was a really awesome truck. And I was about 3 years away from paying it off, but it needed new tires, it needed new brakes, it needed a lot of maintenance. And I get the quote on the maintenance, and it was if it wasn't $500, it was like $1,500. I just remember it being a lot, and I'm like, my car payment's only $200 a month, $300 a month. Maybe I could just take the equity from this, get a new car, and just keep that payment going. And I can avoid spending $2,000 right now or whatever it was. And I get in that, I go to the lot, I get in the Toyota, I'm driving it around, and the new car smell, like that alone like makes you think about buying a new car. It was nice and shiny and clean, but then I realized it had Bluetooth. And that's what sold it for me. I was like, Bluetooth. Like, this is amazing. Like, this tells you how long ago, like, we were but also I was connected with my BlackBerry. Like,
it strikes me that we justify, I can pay $500 a month for Bluetooth, because that's essentially what you're talking about.
A Bluetooth accessory, yeah. Which really, I could have just bought a radio. And I learned that lesson because that Toyota Corolla, remember the radio like eventually went out?
Yeah.
I had a buddy who worked at a sound place in Missoula, Montana, and gave me a really good deal, like a nice little radio and some speakers, and it had Bluetooth, and I could have just done that with my truck rather than like trading in it. So I had to learn that lesson the hard way.
I remember when you got the Corolla and you didn't have Bluetooth, obviously, but we had, you can see it in our first documentary, the cassette tape that hooked into the iPod.
Yes.
And isn't it better to use that than to pay $500 a month for Bluetooth?
Oh my goodness. 100% better. 100% better.
What else you got?
Then, I remember when we first started down the minimalism road, I needed a shaver. So I went to, whatever department store to get a shaver. And there's all these options, paradox of choice, right?
Mm.
Like, oh man, like I don't know. How do I know which one's which? Amazon wasn't really a thing, so it's not like I could really look at reviews. Nor did I feel like I needed to go look at reviews for something to shave my scruff. So I'm like, well, I'm a minimalist. I'm doing this because I want to regain control of my time, and the way I can regain control of my time is by regaining control of my finances. So I'm gonna get like the cheapest, the cheapest shaver that I can get. And it lasted about, I think the warranty on it was 30 days. It lasted about 30 and a half days. And I was so mad because it was just a piece of junk. And the regret there was not A, doing a little bit of research beforehand, and B, I could have just freaking, I could have just spent a little bit more money and got the better quality item.
Yeah. And
instead of like trying to, and almost in a way, I kind of look back at like me being self-righteous in that situation. I'm a minimalist. I'm going to spend as little money as possible. So, that's another lesson I learned. Like, just because you're a minimalist doesn't mean you have to be cheap.
Yes, I think that's important because there are these extra costs, the cost of replacing the thing when we buy the cheap thing. So that's another way. You weren't actually being intentional because you were looking at one dimension of three dimensions, right? You were looking at merely the price point. Well, the best price point is not to buy it at all, because then you pay $0. But that also doesn't get you what you want. Yeah. So not buying the thing didn't get you what you want. Buying the cheapest version of the thing didn't get you what you want. Yeah. Both of those things would lead to regret. Yeah. But also buying the $5,000 gold-plated shaver would lead to regret as well. Yeah. And for you, the best thing was somewhere in between, much closer to the $0 item, but something that is going to last a while. In fact, that's what intentional purchasing does. It allows us to buy the thing so we can stop worrying about the thing, replacing the thing, buying another thing, getting a better version of the thing. We get the thing that is enough so we can move on and stop worrying about the purchase at all. Yeah. Did you enjoy this standalone Patreon highlight? If so, you can listen to full episodes of the Minimalist Private Podcast, available exclusively on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/theminimalists or click the link in the description. Your support keeps our podcast and YouTube channel 100% advertisement free.